Good morning and welcome back to Choose Your Own Adventure, Doctor Who, Mission to Venus, and this is installment 3. We actually ended our first adventure after 2 sections, but it sent us back to a section to continue our adventure in a different way. So we're going to read that and in the comments here on Facebook, or you can go to our YouTube channel and watch this video, or you can go to flipgrid.com/EPL and you can do voting through Flipgrid and check out our topic on Choose Your Own Adventure there. So here we go with our adventure. You were equally surprised. He looked like something from a bygone age. So, what was he doing on a spaceship? You had no time to dwell on it because the sailor dropped the cylinder and bolted through the door, fastening it behind him. Have I gone mad? Perry asked. I could swear I just saw a sailor. You saw a man dressed like one, the doctor said. There is a difference. Either way, you said, aware of the axe still in your grasp. Do I break this jar or not? The doctor considered for a moment. I think not. I'd love to examine them properly, but they must be trapped in those jars for a reason. It might be quite an innocent one, but why tempt fate? Then how do we get out of here? I don't think we have to worry about that, the doctor answered. That sailor will have set all the alarm bells ringing. We won't be alone for long. And you weren't. The door opened and the first Matlock came in with 2 others. All carried guns, which were obviously advanced weapons. One was an officer, his rank proclaimed by shoulder flashes. Don't move, he said. My dear fellow, the doctor said, we have no intention of doing any such thing. And anyway, where could we go? We're marooned on your ship. I don't know where we are, but I'd be willing to bet that taking a nice walk outside is not an option. A quick glance told you that the TARDIS was out of sight in a corner of gloom. You were relieved. You knew how much confidence the doctor had in the impregnability of his vessel, but unknown people poking about it was not something you particularly wanted. Too many questions might promote answers difficult to give. Who are you? The officer asked in a distinct American accent. The doctor's voice was firm. Are you the commanding officer? I am First Lieutenant Tedder. Now you could place him. He was from Boston, speaking much as had the late President Kennedy, but he was blond in coloring, so much so that at first glance he seemed to have no lashes or eyebrows. Strangely, his eyes were brown. The face in which they were set was high and thin-boned, the mouth firm. I'll speak to your commander, the doctor said. Tedder nodded and stood aside. He indicated the passageway beyond, and you filed out, the guns following you as you did. Pipes led in all directions, highly polished where they weren't painted. The hum of the air supply provided a constant background. All that was needed was the vibration of engines and a slight pitching, and you would indeed have been at sea. But you knew you were not. The equipment you could see was too advanced for that. You emerged into the control room. It was an extraordinary mixture of the traditional and the technological. Forward, a man stood at a timber steering wheel, but there was no window before him. Instead, there were banks of instruments, computers clicking quietly away, and a row of video screens, in which you could see the stars hanging in space. It was evident that though the ambiance was that of the 19th and 20th centuries, the ship was capable of things undreamed of. To you, the steering wheel itself looked more like dressing than a necessity, supported as it was by so much instrumentation. To the side was a large metal desk. Its top was of glass, beneath which even more machinery glowed and flickered. Behind the desk sat a broad-shouldered man, his shoulders decorated with numerous flashes to indicate his rank. His dark hair and beard showed signs of graying. The set of his mouth brooked no argument, though his face was expressionless and his eyes cold. Tedder stood rigidly to attention. "These people were found in the hold, sir." "Very well, mister." His voice was deep, the sort that could effortlessly make itself heard over some distance. He had not taken his eyes off you, and you had the uneasy feeling that he was looking right into your mind. "Now, just who the heck are you?" The doctor introduced you, then waited. The commander was clearly in no hurry. "And might I ask what you are doing on my ship?" he said finally. "It's quite inadvertent," the doctor said. "We're time travelers, and I made an error of judgment somewhere." The commander's voice remained calm. "You are what?" "Time travelers." "You certainly did make an error of judgment if you expect me to believe that." The doctor also was cool. "Nonetheless, it remains a fact." "Does it? So 1 minute you can be in one century and the next in another." "Yes, put simply, but well." "Do I look like a fool?" "Of course not." "Then try not to take me for one. It makes me testy." He leaned his hand on his head. "If you were to appear in the past and even so much as speak to someone, then you would alter the sequence of events from there on. Therefore, the present would turn out to be different from what it is. If you even stepped on an insect, everything would change. And when you returned to your future, it would be different from the one you left. Do you follow me?" "Yes." "And?" "Your logic is impeccable, but inaccurate. You are operating within the parameters of your understanding. I am not. Forgive me for drawing attention to it, but I understand more than you because I am not of your time. I am from the misty realms of time, and to explain the theory and practice of my form of travel would be more than I'd care to attempt." The commander sighed. "I see." He stood up, and you could see what an imposing figure he was. More than 2 meters in height and looking to be almost the same across the shoulders. Not a man to argue with. "Well, despite the nonsense you talk, you're here. There's nothing to be done about that, so we carry you. But mark me. I expect you to help with duties if and when needed." He came round the desk and surveyed the three of you, still betraying no emotion. "I am Commander Berrigan. Should I tell you to do something, you do it, and you do it fast. We are carrying an emergency supply of food to Venus. Theirs was wiped out by an unknown virus, and if we don't help them soon, the colony will no longer exist." "Is that what those awful plants are?" you asked. "Those things in jars?" "Yes," Berrigan replied. "The plants are called lichen. They are high in protein and also high in risk. Let free in an oxygen atmosphere, they will grow at a speed almost beyond belief, devouring everything they encounter until nothing is left. Then they devour themselves." "How do they control them on Venus?" Perry asked. "Venus has no oxygen," Berrigan answered. "The plants are cultivated outside and fed just enough to keep them growing sufficiently to satisfy the demand. Now," he turned away, "you'll be taken to a cabin for the time being. Kindly stay from beneath our feet." The doctor gave you a quick glance, which you interpreted correctly. "I'll stay," you said. Berrigan turned on you, and you felt the full force of his personality. It hit you like a physical blow. "You'll stay? Why?" "To help you," you said. I don't mind what I do, I just don't want to be locked up in a cabin. He regarded you for a moment. Can you clean bright work? With the best, you said. Just give me some metal polish and a rag and see for yourself. I shall. He nodded to a crew member who took you to one side while Perry and the doctor were taken away to their cabin. The crew member was Charlie. All that could be said for him was that he had lank hair, a prominent nose, protruding teeth, and bad breath. Apart from that, he had nothing going for him. You turned your head away as he pressed exactly what you asked for into your hands. Polish everything you see that shines, he breathed into your flinching face. Then tell me what you're doing in this Jonas ship. He shook the can of metal polish and soused some onto the rag. In front of you was some copper piping. You set to on that, first rubbing the cleaner in. Jonas? You whispered. Berrigan, Charlie said. None of us trusts him. He's been in 2 disasters. First time, his ship was seriously damaged. Second, he lost it altogether and to get in a space shuttle. There's a few dead men wouldn't speak too well of him, I tell you, mate. They're in deep space somewhere, or what's left of them. But does he care? I ask ya. Right, mate, said the man next to him. The sooner we land this load of rubbish on Venus and get 'em home again, the better off we'll be. Rubbish, is it? Charlie said. Then you'd better start praying that rubbish don't get free, 'cause if it does, mate, we're all finished. All I want is my danger money, the man said. I pick it up and I'm finished with space sailing forever. Ha! Charlie jeered through his sour teeth. I know your sort, mate. 2 months of wine, women, and song, and you're back on the space jetties again looking for a berth. Just make sure you don't find Jonas Berrigan. Next time, you'll probably be carrying a colony of lepers. But Tedder loomed up behind them. Get on with your work, he snapped. The next man I find talking gets 24 hours in the paint locker without bread and water. Charlie muttered something beneath his halitosis, but you noticed that he kept his head averted and buckled to at his cleaning. You did the same. A crackling sound came from the speakers placed about the area. Then the one you took to be the radio operator turned his dials, then looked up at Berrigan. Venus coming in, sir. Very well. Berrigan strode to the control console and flicked a switch, then waited. Venus calling Medusa, Venus calling Medusa, came from the speakers. Hearing you loud and clear, Venus, Berrigan answered. How are you coping? We're still alive, Commander, but can't say much more than that. We have a number of sick now, and they're increasing. It's difficult to keep going on the little rations we can allow. We've cut down physical movement as much as possible, but there's a limit to that. What's your position now? Berrigan glanced at the console. We're in area Victor 132 of region Dengra and closing fast. Roger, but I doubt it's fast enough. How long can you last? No more than a week. After that, we start to die. The commander studied the console for a moment, then flicked more switches for further readings. I can boost our speed by burning off some of our safety reserve. That should get us to you in time. You could not help but notice the uneasy glances exchanged between the crew members. Safety reserve, you knew, meant exactly what it said. It was carried in excess of the fuel required for the voyage and was solely for use in an emergency. Burning it off unnecessarily left the ship and its crew in jeopardy. But then the people of Venus were themselves experiencing an emergency, and Berrigan was the man to decide what was to be done about that. Yes, I can do that, he said. We'll be in contact later. Thank you, Commander, Venus replied. Our lives depend upon you and your men. We'll be there. Out. He turned from the console. Stand by for a 5-second burn. Several of the crew jumped to their controls, but Berrigan was stopped short by a call from the radar tracker. Unidentified object heading directly toward us, sir. Bearing? Starboard 32 and closing fast. What does it look like? Could be a meteorite, sir. I can't get a visual on it yet. Port 20, Berrigan snapped. Burn off in 5 seconds. Start counting now. The helmsman spun the wheel and you saw the stars begin to slide across the screens. 5 seconds to burn off, a crew member called. 4, 3, 2, 1. The ship shuddered as the propulsion unit flamed into life and thrust it forward. We have burn off. 4, 3, 2, 1. Silence fell. Burn off completed. Very well. Object still heading for us, the tracker called. It is a meteorite, sir. Meteorites can't change course at will, Berrigan said. Look again. I am looking, sir. I've got it on visual now. Berrigan crossed and looked at the tracker's screen. His face, as ever, remained impassive as he studied this remarkable sight. You, too, could see it now. As far as you could make out, it bore all the appearance of what the tracker had said it was. But how could it change direction? Hard a starboard, Berrigan said. Hard a starboard, the helmsman spun the wheel. You all stared at the tracking screen. Sure enough, the meteorite also changed course. We're on a collision course, sir, the tracker said in a worried voice. I see that, Berrigan swung away. All hands to emergency stations. The sound of the alarm siren whooped through the air. Men raced this way and that to their stations. Even Perry and the doctor reappeared, wondering what was going on. Check safety shield, Berrigan ordered. Safety shield secure, sir, came the answer. Meet her, he said to the helmsman. Aye, aye, sir. The helmsman spun the wheel and steadied the ship on her original course. Ship steady. How long have we got? Berrigan asked the tracker. About 30 seconds, sir. All secure yourselves, Berrigan said. This might be quite a bump. Everyone grabbed hold of something, you included. Silence fell. You noticed that the doctor, as full of curiosity as ever, had placed himself near the tracking screen and was watching it in fascination. Perry was hanging on to a stanchion. 10 seconds, the tracker said, buckling his safety harness. 5! You waited. Berrigan glanced about to make sure that all were as secure as they could be, then gripped a bar on the front of the console. There was an almighty crash. The ship seemed literally to jump to one side. The lighting dimmed. Everything shuddered before your eyes. The stars jumped across the video screens. Everyone clung on grimly. Then there was silence. The lighting returned. Damage reports, Berrigan ordered, then to the helmsman. Can you get her back on course? She's answering to the helm, sir. Then do it! He turned his attention to the videos, scanning the ship's hull. You could see that the meteorite, although traveling at tremendous speed, had been quite a small one, almost a quarter the height of the ship's side. Something like half of it adhered to the metal. It looked to be much like a boulder, a chunk of disintegrated planet, you thought, that had been bowling through space for eons. You wondered if it were possible that the Medusa had about it some sort of gravity field that had drawn the meteorite in. It seemed unlikely, but what other explanation was there for a piece of rock that apparently steered itself through space? You glanced at the doctor. If anyone knew, it would be him. But he was still absorbed in the video pictures, submerged somewhere in his own thoughts, as was so often the case. Tedder reported to Berrigan. A slight leak amidships, sir. Quite small because of the shield, but it'll have to be soon seen to. Very well, mister. Get the repair crew into their spacesuits, and I want rid of that piece of rock stuck on the hull. We'll have trouble landing with that in the way. Aye, aye, sir, he hesitated. There is one problem, sir. Which is? 2 repairmen are in sick bay, one recovering from an appendix operation and one with a broken arm. Then make up for their number from the rest of the crew. We only want tool carriers. Anyone can do that. Right, sir. And now we have a choice. Should we volunteer to help or not? Let me know in the comments. Either say volunteer or don't volunteer. You can also email me at cherfendahl@ellsworthlibrary.org. And we'll see you at 7 tonight and figure out whether we volunteer or not.